Hi, everyone. I am Violet Ayala, the founder and CEO of FemCity, and you're joining us today for our Monday discussion. I have with me the amazing Cheli Grace. She is from our FemCity Founders Circle. She's been a part of our Founder Circle for years. I can't even remember. And we've been friends for, I think, 10 years, something like
Yeah.
that. So time flies. Cheli is in the business of helping women get published.
hmm
She is a best-selling author on her own in her own right. She has published many, many books, gone through the traditional publishing route. So she'll share a little bit about that, I'm sure. And now what she does is she helps women do the same. So she has two different programs. She has one of like a concierge kind of high touch program for those that want more of that. But then she also has a school where she helps people through her modules go ahead and publish their own book. And how to leverage that, how to monetize that, how to use it so that you become more of an authority figure in your industry, in your experience, in your category of your profession. And so today I've asked her to share with us some really great tips that we can all use in ways that when we want to be published authors ourselves. And so, Shelley, anything that I missed, anything that you want to add before
No,
we start?
no, I think it's great. And I'm so happy to be here with everybody because I'm from the mindset that everybody should write a book because we all
Yeah.
have expertise and knowledge to share, even if it just affects one person, right? Think of all the, you know, the knowledge that we're helping others. And I really believe everyone has a story to share, but sometimes we don't allow ourselves that permission. So let's anchor in today and set the intention that if you're meant to start working on your book, hopefully this panel today will get you in that forward momentum. So why is 2025 the best time to write a book? So let's look at where we're at. We've gone through COVID, and now we're back into the world, but in a different way. We're craving community, we're craving connection, we're craving human, right? People like sharing their knowledge, sharing their expertise. So now is the perfect time for, if you're thinking about doing it, just jump in and do it. So tips to do it because you're thinking, how am I going to do this, right? I'm busy. I have a family. I don't even know how to write. Well, let's take a step back, Violet, because you've written a book. You're published like twice, right?
Yeah.
And and I want to equate writing a book to having a baby. So
Mm.
sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy. But how long does it take? It takes 9 months. So from the time that you have that idea in your head, and I'm sure many of you have been mulling over, right? Like you might read a book and you say, oh, I could do that. I could do that even better because I have stories, I have experience. And it takes 9 months. And that's usually the amount of time. And even if you're writing a book that somebody else has written, we're all very different. We're all here on our own journey. We all have our own experiences, our own stories to share. So let's jump in. The first thing I want you to think about is you start with your why, not your what. So your why, and I want you to think about this question. What transformation do you want to create for others through your book? So, what is that transformation? And I'll give you a quick backstory of who I am if you'd already known. I was a school principal in Coral Gables. And what happened was I wrote a book because of my expertise. During school choice, there was so much information, but I didn't even have it too. So I did research and I wrote it. So you might be in an industry where you have information that you could help people. Our world has changed so much. We're grasping, we have so much knowledge at our fingertips, but what happens? We don't have the time to sift through that knowledge. Maybe you have that expertise that you can go and sift through it and make it easy. Create that transformation with someone. The second tip I want to give you today is don't write a book, build a brand asset. Whether you have a business, whether you're in corporate, whether you're in a corporation, it's a brand asset. I'll share my transition with you. So I wrote this first book and it took me down a path of realizing that I had all this information and I decided to write another one. And I saw the vision and it was big because I wanted to write a series to help parents and people in the school system. I brought on a partner and together we self-published the first two books. And then Wiley gave us a huge contract at the time and they bought out the rights for the 6 books in our series. So think about your why, think about the transformation, and it's a brand asset. Now, I'm sharing that with you because that brand asset helped me transition into what I do today. So it's always Violet, you wrote 2 books, right? Like one of them was, share a little bit about that because it's fascinating.
Yeah, thank you. So I muted myself because I sneezed, and then I forgot to unmute myself. So the first one I wrote, actually, I'm glad you asked this question because the first one I wrote, it was because everyone wanted me to write a book about my lessons. They were really enthralled
Right.
with like my love story, and then also, you know, healing from my having my mother as my mother. And so I wrote it one time. I actually didn't like it. I threw it
Right.
away, and then I wrote it a second time. Didn't like it either. The third time, I just wrote the way that I speak. So it was definitely, I just wrote it as if it was my own diary. And then
Right.
I included some worksheets. If you know me, you know, I love worksheets. I love guided, you know,
Yeah.
questions. And that's the one I ended up publishing. And then the second one is a workbook. It's a FemCity's money guide. And
Right.
that I had been teaching that class for so many years. And I was like, and all the students that have ever participated in that class were like, oh my gosh, it would be great to have a journal. We have a journal.
Yeah.
So I just created a 30-day journal. So it goes through the class that we already had taught, but then it actually has 30-day prompts to talk about your money story to release it. So both of those, the first one definitely took longer because I kept scratching it. I like,
Right.
you go back to your why. My
Mm-hmm.
why, I didn't know what my why was. I was receiving it from other people and I was doing their why. But then when it turned into my why, it was easier to
Right.
produce it. And then I love your second tip, build a brand asset, because I didn't do that on purpose because I didn't
Right.
have you in my life to tell me that.
Right.
I mean, I did have you in my life, but not at that level.
Right.
But you know, thinking about it, that's what I did. Both of them are brand assets, right? They're both from City, and I leverage them
Right.
for to get into newspapers and magazines and things like that.
Right.
So
And that's a great segue into your why, because that's what happened to me. I became a national education expert on news when there was a catastrophic event or something that was newsworthy on a national level. I would be called and I would share my expertise. So that also built my brand. And as Violet knows, and I know that you have all kinds of great, cool things for FemCity, you know, that you share in terms of media. The fastest way to grow a business and a brand is through the media. You leverage. It's leverage and scaling. And
yeah,
that's what I help, you know, people understand, that it's not only writing a book, it's a brand asset. And how are you going to scale that brand asset to go to that next level? Now, it could be your business and it could be your personal brand. So let's say you want a promotion or you want to go to another company at a higher level. So that brand asset can help you take that and scale it to greater heights. So getting to the next tip, which is important, which is 3, I want you to think framework, not chapters. Because a lot of times people think, my gosh, how can I write a book? It's so hard. And I get it, because it took me a bit to write my first book. My first book was on school choice. I had the information. I did a ton of research, but it's that mindset thing, right? Like, oh my gosh, am I saying the right thing? You know, so to me, just go with what you know. And that framework is important. And we go back to, what transformation do you create? What system do you have, right? What's the process? And Violet, you give a great example with the money guide that you published, because you've already been teaching the class. Now you create that system and methodology and you put it in a book. So many of you might have courses, you might be coaches, you have all of this, you have an asset already that is already there. All you have to do is position it in a way that you can put it in a book. And that is, think of framework, think of your system. So from there, and it's funny that you mentioned it, because I'm writing my 8th book now. And I'm going back to self-publishing, because when I started writing, it was in an era, it was 2023 that Wiley bought out our books, right? No, 2023. Yes. It was
I think it was before that.
2003. It was
Yeah.
2003. Oh my gosh. It was like over 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, the publishing industry was not what it is today. So people that self-published 20 years ago, they weren't looked upon, like, people still did it. KDP was kind of a newbie on the block. Amazon had just kind of launched. So it wasn't very well received as it is now. Now people are totally self-publishing. In fact, I just helped someone launch their book who was a big influencer, and they could have gotten a traditional contract, and they're like, nope, I'm self-publishing. Because you have total control of your intellectual property. You have total control of your copyrights. And that's what I teach my clients to do. I help you through the entire process, But I teach you how to own everything, so that you can take it and use it for content. You can take it and use it for courses, for modules, for coaching programs. It's so important. And I am now going to be hopefully publishing this year because, again, the world has changed. And just like Violet, where she put it away like 3 times, I've done the same. You go back and you repurpose it. That's why I say it takes 9 months to really put things together, because you go back to it and you refine it and you say, oh my goodness, this is going to be better now because the world is changing. So think framework. What is a transformation? And think of your book as a brand asset. Now we get to the nitty gritty, which is like I call it, the action daily. What are you going to do? So progress over perception. I can't talk. Perception, perfection. Progress over perfection, because it is a perception. We want our book yesterday. So create a plan for yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. We tend to be so hard on ourselves. Like if it's not perfect, we don't want to publish it. And maybe some of you have been noodling. Like I love that word that Violet taught us, right? Let's noodle on it. You've been noodling on your book for years, right? But it's just, you just don't know. It could be a mindset thing. It could be, and that's why I love FemCity, because we're a sister and we're help each other. Like we celebrate our wins and we have each other's backs to go out and launch it. So create a plan. Even if you can only write 2 or 3 hours a week, maybe it's 20 minutes a day, whatever works for you. When I was writing my first book, I was a busy mom. My kids were in elementary school. I was running a school. And the only time, and this sounds crazy, but moms, you get me, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning because I had a passion. This was my passion project. From 4:30 to 5:30, I would get my time and I would write during that time. And it sounds insane because, of course, but you guys know, some of you are night owls and you stay up late. I'm an early owl. I get up early and I did that and it got it done. But progress over perfection, a little bit every day. And today with the tools, I'm going to give you some tools. You have AI tools, right? You can use AI. AI is great to start your frameworks. It's great to help you kind of get, that blank page, from that blank page to words on the page. And also, this is funny because I started writing my books in the ancient times where AI and the tools that we have today. So I used to call a transcription service on my phone. And as I was driving to work, I would dictate, let's say, my chapter. Now we have Otter AI. We have all kinds of tools where you can record your thoughts, right? And then you go back, it's transcribed for you. And you can write a book that way, because who's got the luxury of sitting in front of a computer like for hours, right, to write? Some of you might, but it might not work for you. So there's all different kinds of ways to write. The last tip is publish smart. And I go back, retain your rights, right? Retain your rights, retain your revenue. I've worked with so many authors that have come into my space that have written books that they were getting hardly no royalties on them. And I said, you know what? You've evolved. Let's write another one. Use the first one as a stepping stone. Now let's write your second book. They're making more money now from the second than the first. And they're retaining all the rights. They've created modules. They've created courses. They've created coaching programs. So own your rights. If you have a system, I highly recommend you trademark it, right? Because it's important. If you have a name, register your name. It's important. So retain your rights, because it's your stories, it's your experience, and it's what you want to share with the world. So, Violet, what do you think?
Yes, I love it. So I was thinking the last point, retain your rights. So here's back in the day, those that did self-publishing, it was like poo-pooed upon, right? It was like poo-pooed. And to go in the publishing house. Here's the thing. Nowadays, even if you got published through a traditional publishing house, and this is what I've heard from friends that have done this, this is not from myself, is that you end up doing the work anyway. You have to create your following, you have to book your own tours, you have to reach out to, so all of those things nowadays, even if you choose a traditional publishing house, they take a piece of it, but then you also have to manage. It's not like how it was 30 years ago when they would do all those things for you, but now because of social media, it's really on your shoulders. So with that in mind, that's why it's better to not that anyone asked my opinion, but I'm just saying it, like, it's for me, I chose self-publishing for that
Right,
reason alone, because I already had a following, I already had a community, I really didn't need anyone to
right,
help me sell these
right,
books.
right,
And so I just did it that way. And I ended up making the money
right,
versus giving it to somebody else. So I
right.
know there's a question here. I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Kiana,
But while
Kiana,
while you're doing that, I'm gonna share with you my journey because you're absolutely right.
yeah,
I still network. I'm still a professional speaker, but I would reach out, I would speak, I would sell the books as well. And even though I was with Wiley published 6 of our books, right? 6 books with Wiley. They would take me and send me to the national educational conferences, but I still had to network. I still had to talk to superintendents that would bring me in to talk to opening of school teacher workshops, to give the talks, and then they would buy the book. So you still have to do the work. It's not
yeah.
like in the movies, right? It's glamorous and you become published. And also, even if you put it on Amazon, to me, viral marketing, get out there, talk to people. That's how I leverage the media. I leverage the books. And you're absolutely right. You still have to do the work. So, okay.
Let me bring a question in. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the comments. We also have a private chat. We just realized
Oh,
some of us were using the private chat, and they were like, I didn't know these existed. I'm like, I didn't either. So if you
right.
want to do the private chat, go for it. But Kiana has a great question here. The
Yes.
trademark feels terrifyingly expensive. I know it does.
Yes.
There is a FemCity founder member, Amy Bales. She's one of my best friends. She does trademarking. But what do you think about that, Cheli?
Yes, it can be expensive. You need to do your research. You need to know who you're working with. You yourself can go into the trademark office. It's the government, and you can start doing your own research. They have modules that
Yeah.
teach you. There's all different kinds of attorneys. I would definitely start with our FemCity, trademark attorney and have a conversation and just plan it out, right? I have 3 trademarks under my imprint, right? Virtual Book School is trademarked. So it's a process. Right now, it's a process that's taking even longer. When I've trademarked most of my trademarks, it took 18 months. But to me, my recommendation is do your research. I'm all about research. So go into the trademark office of the US GOV, right? Just type in, trademark office and start reading, the process, how it's done so that you have an idea. Because if you do hire an attorney, then you can ask all the questions. What are they billing you for? How much is it going to be? What does it take? Because the attorneys bill you for all the research, but you could do it yourself, but I don't recommend that because you want to do it right. So I would definitely reach out to our FemCity trademark attorney and have a conversation, right, Violet?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to introduce you. And I think I'm trying to think about the cost. So I didn't trademark my first 2 books. I did not trademark
Right.
any of it. However, I have trademarked for FemCity, and I think it ranges between $300 to $500 for trademarking a name. So
A
that, of
name.
course, it's the fee that the government pays, and then of
Right.
course the attorney
Right.
fee. So there's that, and then you have another question. Kiana, let us know if you have any other questions as well. We're going to go to
Now, let
Suki.
me let
Go
me
ahead.
just say before you do the question, a
Yeah.
trademark is different than a registered copyright, and I do want to talk about that.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah.
Yes, you by writing your book and putting the copyright, and the best way to do this is look at other people's books that they've written, right? They've published through traditional publishing houses. Look at the copyright page. But it's very important to go in and register your copyright, because if you don't register your copyright, then you can't go out after someone who plagiarizes or who steals your intellectual property. So I do my research, but we have an attorney that I've been working with for over 20 years that does this for me, right? And in my concierge program, they do it for my client, but it's important to register your copyright. Always remember that and do research on that. And I'm sure the trademark attorney with FemCity could probably also register copyrights.
Probably.
Very
Yeah.
important.
Probably. Yeah. That's a great question. That's a great
Yeah.
tip there. All right, let's go to Suki. So Suki said, my question is, how do you connect one chapter to the next?
Ah,
Sometimes I get into my head about it with the perfection on that.
that's a great question. So if you think about it, I want you to think about what system. That's why I said, don't write a book, build your asset, and think about your framework. So Violet, walk us through your money book.
Yeah,
Walk us
I
through your money
understand.
book. right?
Yeah. So the money book, just to give you an example, Suki, is that the money book, I'm thinking about it as a class and I think
Right.
about it as layers. And so the
Hmm.
first thing was, what do I need to teach them? Like, what's my intention? And then how do I teach it best for the reader so they comprehend and they can
Hmm.
benefit from it? So then the first part is why they need the money guide, how it shows up, how it helps you. Then I go through the framework. And
Hmm.
then I go in through the supplemental 30-day course, like the 30-day
Right.
journaling. So thinking about it, like if you want to give it an example, think about it as a class that you're teaching and the different
Hmm.
layers. And so what's the best method for that
Hmm.
student to understand the curriculum if you're teaching that as a course? That's the best way for me, is like I think about, like, because students want to know, why do we need to learn this? How is it
Hmm.
going to help me? Where am I going
Hmm.
to be able to use this? And then show me what it is. And then after you show me what it is, talk to me about the case studies. Talk to me
Right.
about, what other supplemental or resources can I have? So that's how I used, that's an example of the money guide
Yeah.
for me. And then the
And that's
first
it.
book was just 10 lessons. So that was easier. There
Yeah.
was 10 separate lessons. So I didn't have to worry about the transition. It was just like, here are 10 lessons, and each one had its own theme.
But that's an excellent way. That's a framework. That's a
Yeah.
system. So I sometimes like the book I'm going to be publishing soon, the Book to Millions Method, has 3 parts, right? The first part is why everybody needs to write a book to build a business or a brand. So I share that.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is the methodology, right? How you do it step by step. And the third part is the case studies, because people want to see themselves like stories. You infuse the stories in your book. You could do your story if you're a coach and you take someone through a transformation. So Suki, think about the transformation that you create for your client, and think about it's the client journey, how they come in and what you do to have them go on the other side with success. So I hope that
I
helps.
love
And
that.
yeah.
I love that. So we have one more question. I don't see any other ones, so this might be our last one. It comes from Kiana again. So she said, like, the book would be copywritten, but the framework is what that she wants to trademark, which is
Yes.
very similar to your methodology, Cheli. So
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing for yours?
So I trademarked the Book to Millions method. I'm writing the Book to Millions method to help people, to help everybody go. So I founded that methodology. That's my framework of how to do it. My virtual book school, I also trademarked because it's my school. It's my like my online brick and mortar. Now, the copyright you register, but the framework, like when I work with my authors, many times my clients that come in either are transitioning or they're professionals that are coaches and they have their system. So I always say to them, you need to hook up with an attorney,
Mm,
because that's your IP, that's your intellectual property. That's what you've created. So you don't want anybody else to copyright it, right? Like to copy it. So you can't copyright like a framework or a system. You trademark it. Think of a patent.
mm,
Think of Colgate toothpaste, right? They have their own ingredients. So what they do is they patent it. A book is the same, right? Your framework is the same thing. It's not ingredients, but it's your system. So you want to trademark it. Now,
okay.
don't trademark it if you're not going to use it in your company and it's what your company is. Think of trademarks that people have, and what do they have them. So another good idea is to research people that are in your space. If you want to write, like if you're a coach in, let's say, the wellness space. Okay, so who has a trademark program in that space? Learn that, like learn more. I'm all about research. What are other people doing? Because, and it doesn't matter if you're doing something, you have your own experience, you have your own stories, you have your own methodology. So I don't want anybody then researching and saying, oh my gosh, someone's already done it. That's a mindset thing, right, Violet? Like,
Yeah.
do it anyways, because all of us are unique and different, and we have a lot to share with a lot of people, and we've got to do it.
That's a great. So I want to add exclamation points to that. That is a fantastic point, because honestly, like, everything's already been written out there. Like,
Yes.
everything's been written out there already. Just like bread, the recipe for bread is out there, right? It's out there for everyone. If you want to make bread, you can make bread. However, the the way that we present it, the words that we use, the energy we
Mhm.
back it up with,
Right.
all of those things make it so that it's different and unique. So don't worry about if it's already been
Yeah.
done, or if someone takes it. Like, listen, if someone takes the money guide, okay, take it. You know what I mean? They're going to
Mhm.
use different words. They're going to use their different story. I've had people copy, like we've had two really big iconic brands, global international brands that everyone uses pretty much every single day. They've gone out and stolen some stuff from us. So what? You know what I mean? It's not my words. Rather, it's even if you steal all my words, it's my energy. So I've always been a believer in that.
Mhm.
So don't let that ever dim your light because someone's already done something
No,
similar, because the reality is we show up differently, and and people resonate with energy. So
all the
yeah,
time. And your ideal clients, your ideal readers are out there. We could
yeah,
write, Violet and I could write the same book and
yeah,
have the same coaching program,
yeah,
but we have different energies. We're unique, right? We're people are going to gravitate to us. So don't let that stop you. Just go out there and shine your light. That's
yeah.
exactly right. Yeah.
I
Shine your
love it.
light.
So when
Yeah.
we started FemCity, you know, you all know FemCity Miami was our first chapter. And when we started FemCity Miami, we had a table, and you may have heard the story before. We had a table, we used to call it the super smart table because they were all physicians. And we had like two gynecologists, two dentists, two plastic surgeons. And what's interesting is that when we would stand up to do our 2-minute pitches,
Mhm.
everyone pretty much does the same thing, right? Like
Right.
you had someone there who does something, but it's the way that everyone shared, the way that they do
Mhm.
things, the energy that they bring to the table. So all of them always ended up getting referrals, because it's just you connect with someone because they shared it a certain way. So if you don't believe me, go buy a loaf of bread and tell me how many variations of
Right.
bread there are at the market. And at the end of the day, we're still buying the one from the farmer's market. You know what I mean? So we're still
Yeah.
buying even beyond that, the traditional marketplace. We're still buying, you know, I buy bread from Tampa, like from a small little bakery in Tampa that I love.
Right.
So anyway, that was so great, Cheli.
Yeah. That's a great analogy.
All right. So how can femmes find you? You have your virtual book school. I would like for you to mention that.
Yeah. Virtual book
First,
school.
yeah. What's
You
the
can
best
find
way
me.
for them to connect you?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Cheli Grace. You can find me on Facebook at Cheli Grace, and you can also find me on Instagram at Cheli. It's Cheli Grace. My website is Cheli at cheligrace.com, booktomillions.com, and virtualbookschool.com. So 3 things I want to leave you guys with: have clarity, courage, and commitment to start. You don't need followers. You don't need a literary agent. All you need is the courage. And we have FemCity, right? We're here to support each other, to just do it. Just do it. And if anybody wants to, send me a text, send me a message, and I'd love to get on a quick strategy session. I do a complimentary to help you, just push you over the edge to start writing your book.
I love
You're
that.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This is so great. And you can also find her, if you forget all of that, you can find her also in the FemCity Founders, I would rather, the FemCity directory. If you just go to the
Yes.
FemCity directory, she's there. Let me see, there's one more person that came in. All right, Patricia says, thanks, Cheli. Great information and positive. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Patricia. So, all right, ladies, have a wonderful
Right.
rest of the day.
Bye,
And
everybody.
bye.